This is Robin here of Horror Pop After Midnight. I'm over here at Hound Film Festival. I'm here with writer, director of the indie horror short, The Writer, Justin Stillmaker. How's it going, Justin?
It's going real good. It's been a really nice weekend seeing everybody's films and yeah, just really enjoying this whole getting to see so many different horror movies and indie filmmakers and connecting with people. It's been really fantastic.
So tell us about a little bit of The Writer. It kind of remind me of a cyberpunk sci-fi thriller.
That's a pretty good synopsis. It's yeah, it's the writer is about a world, a cyberpunk world where hitmen basically compete for jobs and are after each other, and the nature in the world is can be bought, and it's a kind of a science fiction horror movie, and we have some big fight scenes in it, and it's just been something we've been really proud to finally kind of be unleashing on the world here.
Let's talk about some of the futuristic weaponry. Who made that? It looked pretty sweet.
A couple people worked on it, but the main person was my cinematographer, Adam Peterson. He's just like kind of a genius when it comes to building practical effects, and particularly like the tonfa that the writer uses with this hydraulic needle, like the way he like built a motor in so we could shoot the needle out that we had to reverse. Like we filmed it, reversed it, so he did all these kind of cool effects with all those lights. That was just, it was worth it when you'd see it on camera, but boy, was it a pain in the ass when we made the movie.
So how did you come up with the idea of The Writer?
It started really simple, which is a friend of ours bought a motorcycle, and we were like, oh, it'd be kind of cool to shoot some cool motorcycle stuff. And then it became, well, what if he was like, it was like kind of in the future? And then it became, what if he was a hitman? And then it was just sort of kind of like became this spitballing of ideas. And then I finally kind of went off and kind of came up with like a vision and a script, like outline. We didn't really even have, we had very little script. We just mostly knew like visual points we wanted to hit. And we just kept building up the world, and we kept adding, because like we started shooting during the pandemic. That's why he wears a helmet. I was like, oh, this will be a safe way. There's not a lot of, all the sound will be added in post. And then we paused because like in 2021, like all the variants had come back, and so then we had to come back and finish the movie. And so the story we added on like the fight sequence at his factory and everything, because we're like, let's blow this out even more, because we've been sitting and getting more and more excited about the world.
I love the factory because it had so much cool weaponry. It kind of reminded me of like a futuristic Batcave.
That's we kept calling it the Batcave. It was gross and grimy, and it was like a machining plant, and like it had been operating for 40 years, and the guy had just kind of closed it up. And I fucking love rundown factories. I grew up working in garages and on cars, and so like in a weird way, this became actually one of my most personal films, because it was like a guy stuck in a garage dealing with old ancient analog technology, and that was like a huge factor for me, and kind of like we kept going back to that world.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It kind of reminds me of that 80s series, Street Hawk.
I went looking. You mentioned that, and I was like, oh. And I pulled up some images, and I showed it to the crew that's here, and I was like, who worked on the film, I was like, we kind of did make this. Like, it's like some of the it's the like that mixture of like neon, but like we didn't want to do. I feel like cyberpunk now has like a very too VFX heavy, and we wanted this kind of practical, gross world you can feel and give it texture. Because the thing I miss about analog and practical stuff is like I feel like an audience can feel it more versus like if you just put on nice digital effects are great, but like we purposely wanted like a handcrafted vibe to this film.
Yeah, the characters, the writer who is number 4, and then you got the main one, number 1. What was the obsession of number 1 towards number 4?
I mean, we have a huge giant backstory that we've created for these characters, but in the end, I think number 1 just recognizes that number 4 is the only one that poses a threat, because 2 and 3, as we find out, are working with her, and it was really important to me that like I just love those squick face. It's it's the Batman thing. I was like, I need Batman and I need the Joker, and so that was like in the back of my head all those years of watching the Tim Burton Batman movies. There's like definitely kind of like that vibe of the big kind of world behind them that you want to know more, but in the end still small, so we can actually make it for the budget we had.
Yeah, the ending threw me a curveball, and I was like, really? You're going to leave the driver hanging?
There's a couple reasons that happened. One was we had planned a fight sequence, and that day that's an abandoned island we were filming on, because kind of keeping with that like theme of abandoned and leftover. But the way we sort of landed on that was like, for me, the movie's a lot about like the writer is stuck to an older way of thinking, an older view of masculinity. He has motorcycles and the leather jacket and rundown factories, and he works alone. And so I really wanted this contrast when he gets to nature, and then who he runs up against be the exact opposite of them. And it's like basically he realizes his own mistake and his undoing. And I also knew it would kind of piss audiences off. So that's kind of where that came from.
So who's the actor that plays the Rider? He did a solid performance. I mean, you never, seen his face or heard his voice. He just nailed that role.
Thank you. He's a close friend of me and the cinematographer, Nick. He's a non-actor, but he owns a motorcycle, and he actually was a circus performer. So I always, when I try to cast, I love to cast dancers because I think they just move through spaces differently. Athletes and dancers, they have this way. And so every time he watches it, he's here to see it tomorrow, later today. And he always thinks he doesn't know how to act, but I'm like, I know, but you move beautifully, and you don't have to say anything in this. And also, he was free and would do it.
So where can everybody find you on social media, and also check out the short film, The Rider?
Great place to find me is just my name on Instagram, Justin Stillmaker. I also have a website with the same, justinstillmaker.com. If you reach out to me, I will definitely probably find you a screener for it. Or right now, we're not really looking for distribution, but we're just kind of playing a lot of festivals, and so I try to keep it on the down low that you can find it without. But I post a lot. We have another feature already in the short in the can that I'm going to start promoting pretty soon called Proximity Warning. And right now we're building towards a feature, and possibly the Rider's been asked to be expanded into a bigger universe. So that's kind of what's going on. So you can follow along with that process.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Rob.
This is Robin with Horror Pop After Midnight, and I'm with Nick and Adam, who is part of the sci-fi horror short film here at Horror Hound, The Rider. Adam, you're the cinematographer, and you did all the special effects and all the weapons. How'd you come up with some of those cool weapons, especially that staff?
Yeah, I guess mostly we were just when we were sort of designing the Rider's costume, I was like, well, what would be a cool weapon that we could throw some lights in that isn't an everyday thing you see all the time? And I was like, well, I don't know why I was thinking of a tonfa, and then I was just like, well, how do we make it futuristic? So we'll throw yellow lights in it, and that's how it ended up with him with that weapon, basically.
Yeah, some of the cinematography was pretty good. You got some great angles on some certain scenes that made it really realistic.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, we. I mean, a lot of how this started was just supposed to be kind of footage we wanted for our own reels, and we're like, what can we shoot that looks cool? So initially we just sort of went out into the city in Chicago, and we just started filming on streets with cool lighting and stuff like that. So a lot of it is sort of trying to use the natural light in the space as best we could without having to bring in a lot of extra lighting and stuff like that.
So Nick, you are the Rider, and is that the legit jacket that you wore in the film?
Yes, it is. This is the jacket.
So the motorcycle you rode in the film, was that yours too?
Yeah, so funny story. There's actually, and this is something that nobody notices, there's actually two different motorcycles in the film. It's supposed to be in the city, he's using this one that's a little bit more technical and more new. But then when he goes out, he's using one that's working on older technology that won't work. That the motorcycle in the city only works because it's in the city. That's the whole idea, the premise behind it. I don't know that anybody has ever noticed that there's two in there. But yeah, those are both mine.
Also, let's talk about the cool warehouse. It kind of reminded me of the Bat Cave. And I was talking to, the writer and director, and he said it was pretty grimy and sweaty in there. So how bad were you sweating wearing that helmet and the jacket?
You have no idea. Yeah, so this jacket was completely soaked through at one point in filming. It was a tough go. That location though was incredible. I don't know if we could have possibly gotten a better place to do everything that we did there.
Well, tell me the story about the visor and the helmet.
Oh man. Okay. Yeah. So we started filming and we thought that we had a dark visor for it, but when the helmet came in, it only had a clear visor. So we were like, oh man, what are we gonna do? So we decided to take some wood stain and just stain the inside of it. So I couldn't see anything at all for, God, probably the first 3 months of filming.
Yeah, at least the first 3 months, until we were able to finally get an actual smoked screen visor that was like you could see through.
Yeah, this was all during COVID, so we were having trouble getting a lot of stuff that we ordered was way back ordered. So we just kind of made it work with what we had to begin with.
So let's talk about the choreography fighting. So did you do the fighting scenes, or did someone else do it to make you look badass?
Yeah, we actually hired a stunt team with a fight coordinator that did an incredible job. Those guys they were like the most fun people to work with. But yeah, no, I'm not quite as able to move around the way that those guys are.
The ending got me, man. How it ended with you. Was there like how it ended? Like, I'm not going to spoil it for anybody. Was there like an alternate ending as well?
So we actually shot, I think, 3 different endings for it.
Yeah, there's at least, long answer short, yes, there was an alternate ending just in case we felt like the story needed to go in a different direction. But I think, yeah, we shot 3 separate ending scenes shots for that scene.
Yeah, I think in 3 different locations. We did a lot of locations on this shoot.
Yeah.
So is this going to be going into a feature film?
So we've been talking a little bit about it. I told the director, Justin, right from go when he gave me the script, I was like, you actually wrote a feature. I don't know if you know that or not. So we tried to keep it to like a short length, which is why it's probably a little longer than a lot of shorts. But I think, to me personally, I think that it definitely holds up. There's enough in there to make a feature out of it.
All right. So where can we find you on social media?
Oh, man, you are talking to the wrong person. I literally do not have LinkedIn is what I've got. That's literally the only social media I have.
Okay, let's go over to Adam.
Where can we find you, Adam, in all your great work?
Man, I'm also really bad at this. I don't have an Instagram or anything. The only thing I have is a Facebook and a LinkedIn. So I don't know. I'll try. Maybe I could make up an Instagram and send it to you before the end of the show.
You guys are nuts. Hey, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, man. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you very much.